Well, what a weekend of football that one was. We've got a new team on top of the ladder. The race for finals is still up to 9 teams. It's getting hot in the kitchen, as some would say. It's an interesting run home. We're going to wrap up all 9 matches from round 21, so stick around, enjoy. This is the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. Welcome on into another episode of the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. This is episode number 54 of season 2025. We're taking a look back at round 21. It is our review episode of round 21 of all 9 matches across the weekend. Just an FYI, I am recording this section of the podcast before the last 3 games. So we do the first 6 games in one recording and then the final 3 in a separate recording, all one episode though. So stick around. Every game will be looked at in this game. Just won't have the knowledge of the results of the final 3 when I do this part of the section. Other than that, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all of those sort of things. Follow along. We do 2 episodes a week that go live on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We do this review episode and we do the preview episode later on in the week that goes live every Thursday. So make sure you hit that noti bell, subscribe, follow all of them. Also, AFLW content is coming up. We're going to have that every single week as well. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to go into the podcast or whether it just goes as separate videos on the YouTube channel. I'll see how that plays out over the next week or so before the season starts for the AFLW. Go check out all the socials. All Aussie Rules everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, you name it, we've got it. Blue Sky. And we have content every day on most of those social medias. So go check them out. Let's jump into football, though. That's what we're all here for. There's been 6 games so far. We'll go through them as quick as we can and see what we have. The best players, the best teams, and everything you need to know from the weekend of football. We started on Thursday night, as we do most weeks, and it was Bulldogs GWS. This was at the Marvel Stadium, at Marvel Stadium, and it was an absolute domination by the Bulldogs. They ended up winning 132-44, absolutely smoked the Giants from pillar to post. If you're watching this and not just listening, there's a graphic on the screen that has team ratings for both teams, a 48.56 to a 33.6. That's by far GWS's worst performance of the season and quite comfortably the Bulldogs' best performance against a top 9 team. It was an absolute domination. Everything went right for the Bulldogs in this one, whereas the Giants just really struggled. First quarter, 6 goals to 1. Second quarter, 6 goals to 2. Third quarter was 4 goals to 3, so a little bit tighter, but then final quarter, 3 goals to 0. It was absolute domination. 19-18 to 6-8. Everything just about went right for the Bulldogs in this one. We look at some of the key stats. They had 40 extra disposals, a lot of extra contested possessions, plus 50 in that regard. It was just an absolute hard ball game domination by the Bulldogs. They had an extra 1,200 metres gained in this one, an extra 22 inside 50s. Forward halftime was 60.2% of the time. 61 intercepts to 48. They controlled every facet of this game. They dominated clearances, plus 17. Dominated intercepts, dominated contested marks. Shots was 38 to 14, which is just about the biggest discrepancy we've had in AFL this year, I think. Plus 24 shots is incredible effort. Tackles was very low for both teams. 44 for GWS, 34 for the Bulldogs, but it was just a flat-out domination. Scoring from stoppages, 51 to 16 for the Bulldogs. From turnover was 74 to 22. Defensive half, they scored pretty well. The Doggies 42 to 21, but it was forward half that they got the job done. 11-10, 76 to 2-3, 15. What do we make of it? I think we just write it off for the Giants. We forget about it. If they were to do this again next weekend, maybe it would be a little bit concerning. But as a one-off, they had been in pretty good form. I think we just forget it. It was a game at Marvel Stadium. They always kind of struggle against the Bulldogs. Bulldogs have a pretty good record against the Giants over recent years. But yeah, I think we just write it off. Whereas for the Bulldogs, it's a statement that they are a really good team. We knew that already, but they were just falling apart from the top 8 teams. So they needed this win, and they came out and they did everything they needed to in order to continue their chances towards September. A look at some of the best players in this game. Tim English absolutely was outstanding. He had 20 touches in this game, kicked 2 goals, 3. Could have had a field day, kicked 2 goals in the first quarter. 14 score involvements, 22 hit-outs, 8 score launches, 14 scoring involvements. He did everything he needed to. He played a really good game, as did all their tools. Marcus Bontempelli continued his fine form. He's been in sensational form. His rating currently is above where it was at the end of last season. So he is having another spectacular year this year. 27 touches in this one. 5 goals for Norton, 5 goals for Sam Darcy. They're becoming a really dangerous duo. If these two stay fit, there's going to be a lot of issues for a lot of teams. And trying to stop these two from absolutely tearing you apart, because they will be able to do that. And when you look at the midfield that this Bulldogs team has, they're going to get plenty of opportunities because Bont, Ed Richards, Libba, they're going to win you enough football going forward that it's just going to give these forwards a really good opportunity to dominate games throughout the remainder of the season. Brownlow votes, I've gone Bont for 3. He had 27 touches, 9 clearances. He did everything he needed to in this game. He had plenty of score involvements, 14, 16 pressure acts. He did a lot of stuff in this game. Bont, 2 goes to Tim English. He was really good, as I said. I've given 1 to Aaron Norton. He kicked 5 goals. Other notable mentions, Libba, he had 26 touches. He was good with 8 clearances as well. Ed Richards, 21 touches, 5 marks, 3 clearances. As we said, Sam Darcy kicked 5 goals, 3. Could have had a field day, had 9 shots at goal. No one from GWS deserves Brownlow votes in this game. MVP votes, 10 goes to Tim English. If you're new around here, we do MVP votes for every single game. And it goes, top 5 players for both teams get votes. The winning team gets 10, 8, 6, 4, 2 for their top 5 players. Losing team gets half of that, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So Tim English gets the 10. He was the highest rated player according to the All Aussie Rules rating system that we do for every single game of every single year. Bontempelli gets the 8, Aaron Norton gets 6, Ed Richards gets 4, and Tom Liberatore gets 2. They were outstanding, this Bulldogs lineup. Sam Darcy, unluckily, doesn't get any votes. For the GWS Giants, it was all backline players because the ball was just in their area the whole day. Lockie Ash gets the 5, Lockie Whitfield gets 4, Connor Iden gets 3, Harry Himmelberg's had a great last 6 or 7 weeks. He gets 2, Finn Callaghan gets 1, but boy oh boy were they a long way off the pace in this game. Massive run home for both teams. It puts Giants in a little bit of a dangerous spot on the ladder, but luckily they head home for Manuka Oval for North Melbourne next week. That will be a huge game with huge ramifications on this season, on their season. A win would be massive. Meanwhile, the Bulldogs head over to the MCG. They play Melbourne in a very winnable game. They're 9th on the ladder. A win in that one will be huge for them as well. If they lose it, it might be season over. But their percentage is really good, so they keep with that chance. They need to just keep winning and hope that some other teams start losing, which is going to happen because a lot of these teams above them do play each other throughout the remainder of the year. So big week next week for both teams. The following week is a big one for Giants. They play Gold Coast, whereas Bulldogs then have West Coast in round 23. Final round is a huge one again for the Bulldogs. They play Fremantle at Marvel Stadium, win that. They're probably going to play finals. Giants play St Kilda. So they have 2 very winnable games in the last 3. So I would say they should be safe enough in finals, but they're going to have a bit of work to do across the remainder of the season to make sure of that. Top 4 might be a really big stretch for them now, especially with some other results that have happened this week that we'll get through later in this episode. Moving on to Friday night football, this was one of the games of the year. Adelaide v Hawthorn. This was at the Adelaide Oval. It was a game of swings and roundabouts. Adelaide ended up winning it by 14 points, 15-11-101 to 13-9-87. Hawthorn kicked the first 5 goals of the game. Just before quarter time, Adelaide got there first through Riley Thilthorpe, who had an outstanding game. But it was all Adelaide from that point on until half-time. Half-time, Adelaide had taken a 16-point lead. Hawthorn did not score in that second quarter. Third quarter went back the other way. Adelaide got the first of the third quarter, but then Hawthorn dominated for a period and actually had an 8-point lead going into the final quarter. Then Adelaide kicked away again, kicked the first 3 of the final quarter. Hawthorn kicked a couple through that middle period just to give themselves a little bit of a sniff. I think it put them up by 1 point when Gunston put one through with, halfway through the last quarter. Then the Crows through Rankin and then 2 from Taylor Walker sealed the game to give them that 14-point win. But Hawthorn, after kicking really straight through the first 3 quarters, 11-5 at 3-quarter time, missed some easy ones in that final quarter. The big one was Massimo D'Ambrosio missed a really easy gettable goal, which then the ball transitioned to kick a goal from Taylor Walker within 2 minutes, which pretty much just turned the game and finished the game. Gunston and Nick Watson also missed shots late in that one, but as it turns out, wasted opportunities late, but Adelaide probably missed plenty throughout the rest of the game. So it swings and roundabouts, it's football, but they certainly will be kicking themselves at some missed opportunities in that one. The big news from the game, I guess, is Will Day's season is over. That is a big blow for the Hawks. There's no doubt about it. He's a very important member of their team. If you're watching, you can see on the graphic he was their highest rated player this week. So that is a big blow for them. No doubts about it. Looking at some key team stats in this one, team ratings on your screen. Adelaide at 44.9. Hawthorn actually rated slightly above them at a 45.16. It was a very even game. Both teams certainly had their opportunities. Adelaide probably created a few more in the end, and that was the difference. Players like Thilthorpe up forward, Jordan Dawson absolutely played an outstanding game, especially that second quarter. He took it over and really turned this game for Adelaide. He was outstanding. Hawthorn had more of the football across the game. Adelaide had 7 extra inside 50s. Ball was pretty much evenly in each team's forward half. Contested football slightly Adelaide's way. Intercepts massively Adelaide's way. They did a really good job in that. But Hawthorn out of the clearance dominated it early and late in this game. Especially that first quarter and a half. They were outstanding in the clearance game. It ended up both teams having 25 shots at goal in this one. Obviously, Adelaide slightly more efficient with 15 goals from that, whereas at Hawthorn were 13 goals from their 25 shots. So both teams kicked pretty accurately, but in the end, Adelaide did get a little bit more from their shots. The difference being turnover scoring, 54-46 in favour of Adelaide. Stoppage scoring was dead level at 41 apiece. However, Hawthorn did dominate the clearances in this game, so you'd expect them to score a bit better than they did from stoppages. Adelaide transitioned from the back half really, really well, 51-27 in scoring, whereas Hawthorn did their work from the forward half, 59-37. So just a bit of difference in, I guess, the way that they got their scores, but in the end, it turns out with Adelaide getting the 14-point win, puts them on top of the ladder at the time of the game and keeps them on top of the ladder for the end of the round with Collingwood going down. With the run home they have, 2 away games that are definitely winnable and Collingwood at Adelaide Oval, you'd have to say that they're almost a shoo-in for minor premiership now. They win all 3 of those games, they obviously get minor premiership. The big one is the Collingwood one. If they lose to that, then maybe they lose that minor premiership. But overall, it's a really, really good, strong position for them. You'd have to think that they're going to have a qualifying final at the Adelaide Oval this season, which is massive for them. Port Adelaide obviously had that home prelim final last year and threw it away with a game against Geelong. Adelaide will be hoping to do better than that come this weekend. Brownlow votes, we've gone 3 for Jordan Dawson. He took over the game in the second quarter and turned it completely. Isaac Rankin gets 2 votes for this one. He was really good. His numbers weren't huge, but he kicked 3 goals. He had a couple goal assists. He's playing a much more forward role at the moment, and he is very efficient in that role. Will Day gets the 1 vote. He had a lot of the football, just the 19 touches, but I mean, nobody on the ground had huge disposal numbers. But he was just really important. 7 clearances, kicked a goal, 15 contested possessions. Very, very important game from him. MVP votes for the Crows, 10 for Jordan Dawson, 8 for Isaac Rankin, 6 for Riley O'Brien, 4 for Riley Thilthorpe for his 4 goals, 1 that he kicked. He was very important. And Mark Keane had a really good first half, drifted out of it a little bit in the second half, but his first half was really good. He gets 2 votes. For the Hawks, it's Will Day for 5 votes. He was clearly their best player. Jack Ginnivan, he's in some great form. He had 20 touches and 2 goals in this game. He continued his fine form over the last 6-7 weeks. Ever since coming back from being dropped, he's been outstanding. Finished his game with a little bird to the crowd as well. Lloyd Meek gets 3 votes. He was solid in the ruck. I don't think there was a clear winner between him and O'Brien. Carl Lamond gets 2 votes and Jarman Impey gets the 1. Just an FYI, I didn't say it at the start of the episode, but at the end of this episode, we'll go through my tips for the weekend and Brownlow and MVP leaderboards based on our numbers post round 21. So stick around for the end of the episode. That will be coming up. Let's jump into Saturday football. Before we do that, we should probably just quickly discuss what that means for both teams. Adelaide, as we said, easy run home with 2 away games that are definitely winnable. West Coast next week. They should maintain their top spot. It's going to be 2 weeks' time. That is the important game for them. Hawthorn, they have a big one. Thursday night football against Collingwood at the MCG. They had a bad game against them last time. They'll be out for revenge, and you'd have to think that they're a good chance based on what Collingwood have been doing recently. Hawthorn then have Melbourne in round 23 and finish up at the Gabba against Brisbane. So the next 2 weeks are massive for Hawthorn. They won't want to be going into round 24 at the Gabba against Brisbane needing a win to play finals. They're currently 6th on the ladder. If they were to lose against Collingwood this week, it's going to put a lot of pressure on their final 2 games of the season. So this is a huge game coming up for them this week, no doubt about it. Now we jump into Saturday football, and it was Melbourne West Coast in the first one. Melbourne absolutely tore them apart in the second half. First half, it was pretty close. I mean, Melbourne were in control, sort of, 6-7, 43 to 33, 21. But from that point on, it was a domination from the Demons. They kick 15 goals, 6 in the second half to 5-5. Tore the game apart. They just had better experience, better players in the end, and that's the final result. You look at the team rating on the screen. Melbourne absolutely dominated this. Probably their most one-sided positive game for the year, 53 to 38 basically. Just a really good performance from Melbourne. Too little, too late, way too little, way too late for the Demons, but they won a game that they should win. And West Coast, more than likely going to finish the season on 1 win for the year, which is not ideal, but it is how it is. Looking at some of the team stats for this game, and the important numbers that you need to know, it was basically one-way traffic, let's be honest. Melbourne dominated disposals, possession, metres gained by almost 1,200, inside 50s by 13. The ball was just stuck in Melbourne's forward line for a big chunk of this game, 58% of the time, plus 40 contested possessions, plus 10 intercepts, plus 10 clearances, all for Melbourne. So if you're winning clearances and you're winning intercepts, you're not going to lose the game pretty much ever. 36 to 15 shots tells you everything you need to know. Melbourne just did everything that they needed to better in this game than what West Coast did. And for all that extra ball that they had, they also won the tackle count 57 to 48. So it was just a bad performance from West Coast. We've seen it plenty of times from them this year, but they just didn't do enough. There's no doubt about it. Melbourne kicked 3 goals from kick-in, which is crazy. 3 goals won. They scored 49 to 29 from stoppage and 71 to 28 from turnover. It was kind of like the Melbourne of old, but I mean, you kind of expect that against a lower ranked team. Forward half scoring was huge from Melbourne, 68 to 26. They also scored 3 goals from centre bounce. They just did everything they needed to do in this game. And in the end, West Coast basically had no answers, especially in that second half as the game opened up a bit. Brownlow votes were going Jack Viney for 3. He was outstanding in this game. 25 touches, 20 of those contested. 13 clearances is huge. Kicked a goal, was massive. Max Gawn gets the 2. He's had a great season. Last few weeks, maybe not as big. He did have a really good run from about round 6 on through round 12, 13. Still in contention for All-Australian Ruck honours. Probably won't get it. I think Tristan Sherry is just above him, and Brodie Grundy's certainly coming up very quickly on him as well. But 21 touches, 14 of those contested. Did everything he needed to, kicked a goal as well. Bailey Fritsch, he's been outstanding as well of a recent form. 17 touches in this, kicked 4 goals. He's definitely been an important part since coming back into the team. Christian Petrarca played a much more forward role in this one, had 23 touches for the game, was good. Kay Chandler also obviously played forward. He was really solid with 18 touches. Sorry, my throat is trying to give way on me, but we'll carry on. West Coast were the losing team there, MVP votes. Tom McCarthy, since joining the club mid-season, has been really good. 26 touches, 5 clearances, 7 marks. Played a really good game of football in a losing team. Ryan Marrick was second best. He played solid throughout this game. Tom Cole, his recent form has been outstanding. Over the last 4 or 5 weeks, he's been in their top 5 players every week, I think now. 24 touches, 9 contested. Playing a good role, doing what he needs to. He's just not getting enough support, I don't think. Tim Kelly, he was solid. A couple of weeks in a row, he's played pretty good football. Liam Duggan gets the 1 vote for the Eagles. What that means for both teams is nothing exciting, let's be honest, because both teams' season is done. West Coast have pretty much now, I think they have now sewn up the wooden spoon. I think they pretty much already had it sewn up, but it's now official, and they play top of the ladder Adelaide next week. That's going to be rough. It is at Optus Stadium, but it's hard to see a way that they're going to stop Adelaide from scoring 150 plus the way that Adelaide are playing. For Melbourne, they've got a tough run home. They've got Bulldogs, then they've got Hawthorn, and then they have Collingwood. It's hard to see them getting another win in those 3 games. They're currently 12th on the ladder. They might drop a spot or 2, depending on other results, but it's hard to see them winning a game in their final run home for this season. Next game was up on the Gold Coast, and the Suns took care of the Tigers quite comfortably. 4 goals to 0 in the first quarter, another 2 goals to 0 in the second quarter. For the third time in 4 weeks, Gold Coast have had a goalless half by one of the 2 teams. Obviously, they kept Collingwood goalless in the first half a few weeks back. 2 weeks ago, they were goalless against Adelaide in the first half, and then this week, they've kept Richmond goalless in the first half. Third quarter, it continued that way, 5 goals to 1 for Richmond, and then the final quarter was another 5 goals to 1. Richmond kicked 2 goals 11, 23. A very low score, but very inaccurate as well for the Tigers. Gold Coast did not put a foot wrong in this game. Outstanding performance from them, and some big names played well, which just keeps them in the medal counts for the Brownlow and MVP. We'll get to them very shortly, though. Team rating, obviously, Gold Coast dominated this one, 52.9 to a 34.42. Is just about the biggest margin of the year. Not quite, but it's in the top 5 performances of the year in terms of difference between the two teams. Plus 80 in disposals for the Suns. They did what they do best. Gained an extra 14 or 1,300 metres than their opposition. Time in forward half was 57.7 for Gold Coast. Plus 22 inside 50s. Clearances were plus 13 for Gold Coast. Intercepts dead level. They just controlled the game the way they needed to. 28 shots to 15. So maybe the margin kind of favoured Gold Coast pretty well because they kicked straight 16 goals, 28, and Richmond certainly didn't. 2 goals from 15 shots is quite dismal. But at the end of the day, it probably should have been maybe a 7 to 8 goal margin. Instead, it's almost 100 points because of poor kicking from Richmond. But that's part of the game. Poor goal kicking is a poor football. Scoring from stoppages was 45 to 6. Obviously, all 6 of those were behinds from Richmond. From turnover, 62 to 16. That area continues to dominate for the Gold Coast Suns. Defensive half was really good for them here. 50 to 17. Forward half, 51 to 5. It was just a domination from start to finish. There's no doubt about it. Brownlow medal votes were gone. Noah Anderson, 3. Maybe, just maybe, he's going to be in contention in the Brownlow. We'll see. But he's going to have some competition from his teammate, which might be an issue. Matt Rowell also had a really good game in this one. We've given him 2 votes for his 27 touches and 12 clearances. And 1 to Braden Fiorini for his 24 touches and a goal. Other people, Joe Farah was solid. Ben King kicked 4 goals. Miller was good. There's plenty of good players from Gold Coast, let's be honest. MVP votes, Noah Anderson gets the 10 for his 38 touches, 15 of those contested. 5 intercepts, 8 clearances, 5 marks. Another great game from him. Matt Rowell, as we said, his numbers before, he gets the 8. Braden Fiorini gets the 6. Joe Farah had 11 touches, 2 goals from his 3 shots. And Miller gets the 2 votes for his game of 25 touches. A good performance from him. Richmond, for another week, Nick Vlauston was really, really good in this one. He's been really good of late. Just ignore my phone deciding that it wants to listen to me. Vlauston's had a great run of form, 20 touches here, 11 intercepts, a really good performance from him. He gets 5 votes. Sam Banks gets the 4. He had 26 touches. He was good. Jack Ross gets 3 votes, 23 touches for him. 2 for James Tracy. He was solid enough in this one. And Dion Prestia gets the 1 vote for the Tigers in the loss. Gold Coast are flying. Their season is looking really good as it runs home. On the other side of the fence, Richmond, they've done enough this season. There's no doubt about it. Going forward, Gold Coast have pretty much sealed up a final spot now. They're 5th on the ladder as it stands right now before the final games of the week, but I don't think any of them are going to potentially make much difference. But either way, that's certainly in finals contention. They've got that extra game as well in hand. They play Carlton next week, which is certainly a winnable game at Marvel Stadium. They have lost there before, though, this year. They play GWS in round 23, and then round 24, they obviously play 2 games. They'll probably play on that Thursday night against Port Adelaide before the following week playing against the Bombers and getting what you'd imagine would definitely be that last win against the Bombers. The Giants is probably their big game coming home. They're certainly well and truly in the top 4 chase. You'd have to think that they're a very, very good chance for top 4 based on what we've seen this weekend and over the recent few weeks. So things are looking very good for them. The Tigers, we knew their season was over. We didn't think much for them this year. I think they've exceeded expectations. They're going to be 16th on the ladder after round 21. with 3 games to go. They play St Kilda next week. I think they have a game against North Melbourne, which will probably end up determining who finishes 16th and who finishes 17th, and they finish with Geelong in the final round. They've already done better than what we thought they would. They've had a great season of development for their team, so I think they'll be pretty happy no matter what happens in these final 3 weeks. Sydney Bombers is the next one to look at. This was at the SCG. It was torrential downpour for a bit of this game. It was a sloppy game. It was not a great performance from either team. Sydney certainly not the Sydney that they were last year. I expected them to do better in this game, in all honesty. It was pretty tight through the first quarter. Sydney kicked a couple of late ones to give them a little bit of a lead. They kind of extended it into half-time to lead by 27 points. Essendon had a pretty solid third quarter. Still 26 points down, though. Sydney kicked the first of the last quarter to put it out by almost, you'd have to think, unassailable lead, 33 points up, I think they were. Bombers then kicked 3 by halfway through the last quarter to get them within that range of 14 points. But Sydney just held strong from then on and didn't let them kick any more. There was a couple behinds, 1 each. But Sydney held on for the 14-point win. It was a solid win. It wasn't outstanding. Brodie Grundy set an all-time record for most amount of disposals by a ruckman in a game, which is outstanding effort from him. His form since about round 6 has been absolutely incredible. Back to his absolute best of his career, just about. Team rating goes massively Sydney's way here. They definitely dominated the game stats-wise in this one. We'll go through some of them now. But they had an extra 113 disposals, had an extra 15 inside 50s. The ball was in their forward half, plus 15%, so 57.5 in Sydney's forward half. They had more contested football. They had a lot more intercepts, plus 11. Bombers did win clearances, so that was a good little win for them in that area. The mark count in this game is absurd. 136. Granted, it was wet, so that is an even bigger number. And 42 for the Bombers. That is almost 100 difference in marks, which I don't think I've ever seen a number that much different. It probably has happened, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. Shots for the game was 29 Sydney, 21 Essendon. 14 points isn't probably too far off the expected margin, in all honesty. It's probably more closer to 4 goals than 14 points, but Bombers played solid. They weren't great, but they were solid. They did probably what you could hope for as a Bombers fan. They showed a bit of heart, but didn't threaten to win the game. Scoring from turnover, 56-42. From stoppage was 11-12. Both teams inaccurate in that facet. Sydney scored well from the back half, 34-15, and from the forward half, the Bombers actually did well in that area, 37-32. Overall, it was just Sydney class prevailed. They probably, look at some of the numbers, suggest that they won this game by 80 points. But they just didn't convert all their football into enough opportunities at goal, in all honesty. What did we say the shot numbers were? 29-21. Both teams probably kicked poorly at goal. Create 29 shots. You want probably at least minimum 14 or 15 goals. So a bit disappointing from Sydney in that facet, but they did what they needed to get the 4 points. It doesn't have much effect on the season. Brownlow votes, I think Brodie Grundy has to get him for the records he set in this game. As I said, all-time record for most amount of disposals by a ruckman in a game. 39 disposals is insanity. Let himself down by only kicking 1 behind from his 1 shot, but 13 clearances as well. 22 contested possessions. Chuck in the fact that he had 32 hit-outs, 9 score involvements. He was clearly, I think, best on ground. I've given 2 to Errol Goulden. Him, Nick Blakey, and Errol Goulden. He is Errol Goulden. Nick Blakey, Isaac Heaney, and Errol Goulden, all in Chancellor with votes. I've gone Goulden and Blakey, but Heaney well and truly could be in the votes. For the Bombers, Zach Merritt could be in there. Maybe Sam Durham, maybe Andy McGrath. rated as their highest player. He had 26 touches, 15 contested possessions, and 7 clearances. So I think he would be the most likely to get a Brownlow vote. I don't think he will get one, though. So, yeah, they're my Brownlow votes. MVP votes goes 10 for Brodie Grundy. We've already gone through his numbers. 8 for Nick Blakey. He had 28 touches, 11 intercepts, 10 marks. 8 of those intercept marks. That's insane. Really good game from him. Isaac Heaney had 28 touches and a goal. Errol Goulden, he had 30 touches and a goal. And Justin McInerney gets the 2 votes. He had 27 touches, 2 goals. He was a run and carry player in this game, and he did a really good job of that. What did he get? A link player is probably the best description of him. He had 11 handball receives in this game. For the Bombers, we already said it. Andy McGrath was their best player. Don't think there's any doubt about it. He gets 5. Zach Merritt gets the 4. A little bit quiet in terms of possessions. He was tagged throughout most of the game, but he was still very important. 19 touches in this one. Mason Redmond gets the 3 votes. 20 touches and a goal. 2 for Jade Gresham. He had also 20 touches. And 1 to Sammy Durham, who had 22 touches and 5 clearances. That's pretty much everything we have for this game. Neither team will be playing finals football this year. The Bombers do have an extra game than everyone but Gold Coast in the run home. They're 15th on the ladder. They're going to finish up probably around about there. They have Geelong next week, which is a very unlikely to be a win for them. Round 23, they play St Kilda, which might be a win, but St Kilda are starting to play some decent football, so maybe not. And then round 24, they have 2 games, Carlton and Gold Coast. Carlton, potentially they could win, but Gold Coast certainly not. So, tough run home for them. They're counting the days until their season finishes, I think. Sydney, they can't play finals. They're going to finish probably 10th on the ladder, you would have to think. They have Brisbane up at the Gabba next week. You wouldn't think they'd win that, but you just never know, I guess. Then they host Geelong, which once again is a really tough game. One that you wouldn't expect them to win, but it is at the SCG, so I wouldn't write them off completely. And Geelong, who knows, they may be resting players at that point. And then final round, they head over to Optus Stadium and play West Coast. They probably win that game of football. The Saturday night game was Collingwood-Brisbane at the MCG. Brisbane turned up and played an outstanding game. They win this one by 27 points against what was the top of the ladder team. No longer the top of the ladder team, though, Collingwood, after losing this one. Collingwood kicked the first, looked okay in the first 5 minutes, but then the rest of the first quarter, Brisbane absolutely dominated. Throughout the second quarter, I think Collingwood controlled most of it, and did kick 5 goals to 2 in that second quarter to get themselves back in it and only trail by a point at half-time. But after half-time, it was Brisbane most of the way again. Bobby Hill did come on and kick a goal to get Collingwood within like 15-odd points, roughly, 10 minutes into the final quarter. But then Brisbane kicked a couple quick ones just to seal the game their way. They were just the better team on the day by far. Collingwood had no answers for the tools of Brisbane throughout this one. Both key forwards for Brisbane were outstanding throughout this one. And Collingwood just couldn't stop them. They're missing Jeremy Howe at the moment, I think is their big issue. But Logan Morris kicked 6 goals from 8 shots in this one. Chuck in the fact that they also got 3 goals from Henry Smith, who had never kicked a goal in AFL before. Their tools just got the job done. Team rating, Brisbane 47.73 to Collingwood 39.74. That's Collingwood's worst rating for and against since opening round when they played GWS. So that's not a great sign heading towards finals for them. Meanwhile, for Brisbane, that's absolutely outstanding. That they did that on the road against Collingwood is huge for their season in more ways than one. A look at the stats, the key numbers in this game. Brisbane dominated possession. They just controlled it. Collingwood couldn't get any flow of the football. They couldn't get any transition going. And Brisbane absolutely tore them apart with an extra 85 disposals in this game. Inside 50s was only +3 for Brisbane, so very unlike them, who tend to not dominate possession but do dominate inside 50s. Not so much today. Ball was actually in forward half for Collingwood, plus slightly more than Brisbane's, 50.3 to 49.7. Contested football +22 to Brisbane, so they were winning it at the coalface. They also won the intercept game, which is usually Collingwood's bread and butter, so they'll be looking at that as their big issue from this game, was the fact that they couldn't get enough intercepts and they turned it over too much for the Pies. Clearances dominated by Brisbane, +6 in this one. Oh, no, not +6, sorry. +17. I don't know where I got +6 from. Just ignore me. Shots, 24 to 17 in favour of Brisbane. So clearly they were the better team in this game and they got the win. Tackle count was pretty similar. Looking at transition numbers, change of score was pretty similar across the board for both teams, but from the defensive half, Collingwood struggled. Defensive 50 to forward 50, just 9% for Collingwood, 20% for Brisbane. That's your difference. Scoring from stoppages, as we said, Brisbane did dominate the stoppage numbers, clearance numbers. They won that by +15. They also won the turnover game by +12 in terms of scoring. Defensive half was 26 to 14, forward half 60 to 33. Collingwood's saving grace was their ability to score from the centre bounce. They kicked 3 goals, which kind of kept them in it. But overall, Brisbane were just by far the better team here. Brownlow votes, I think, are all going Brisbane's way. Lachie Neale was outstanding. 36 touches, 7 intercepts, 12 clearances. I think that was vintage Lachie Neale on the weekend. Hugh McCluggage stepped up in the third quarter. His first half was okay, but his third quarter, he turned it on to some of his best football that he's played this year. He's played some really good football, but this was one of his better games. 34 touches, 8 clearances, was outstanding. Logan Morris, as we said, kicked 6 goals. He just was clunking them and he was kicking them from the boundary all day long. He had a great game. Josh Dunkley played really well as well, 31 touches. This Brisbane midfield was just an absolute workhorse. Dane Zorko, just the 19 touches in this one, but also rated reasonably high. He was certainly involved in a lot of football both ways. And unlucky for players that did get plenty of touches that aren't in the votes for Brisbane as well. Will Ashcroft had 30 touches. Didn't go at a high percentage with his ball use, but he had plenty of it. Levi had 22. Jasper Fletcher had 22. Brisbane just dominated the possession and pretty much the game. For the losing team, Collingwood, Nick Dacos was their highest rated player. He had a great first half. Went out of it a bit in the second half, if we're being honest. He had 29 touches, kicked a goal, 8 contested possessions, 2 intercepts, 6 clearances. He was good. He just wasn't outstanding. Certainly in the second half, he wasn't as effective. Darcy Cameron, he gets the 4 votes. As is the case with a lot of Collingwood games this year, those 2 were their best 2 players. 3 to Steele Sidebottom. He was solid, kicked a goal. 2 goals, in fact, including one in the last quarter. Scott Pendlebury was important. Wasn't outstanding, but once again, 22 touches, 11 contested, 5 clearances. Josh Dacos ended up with a fair bit of the football throughout this game. 29 touches, 18 handball receives. Missed a shot at goal, but the numbers weren't great. Nick Dacos was the only one that was really close in the top 5 or 6 players that to their normal rating. In all honesty, Darcy Cameron also was pretty close to his average, but Nick Dacos was really the only one that was close. So that's the 6 games up until Saturday. Hang around. I'll do a quick slip in the minute, and we'll go straight into the Sunday games. Well, we're fast-forwarded through a few hours and all the games have now wrapped up. So we're going to run through the remaining 3 matches from the weekend. Sunday's games started with St Kilda, North Melbourne. This one was at Marvel Stadium. It was 2 teams that obviously are not going to be playing finals this year. Both got a few games left. Kangaroos started okay. They were leading at quarter time. They were leading most of the way through the second quarter, but then in the second half, St Kilda took over, took control, led by 23 points at 3-quarter time, but couldn't finish the game off, with North Melbourne having a good last quarter, kicking 3 out of the 3 goals to get within a kick before Max Hall kicked the last goal for St Kilda to give them the 9-point win. Not convincing by any stretch of the imagination from either team. Not a game that too many people will want to go back and rewatch, I wouldn't have thought. It was a high possession game from kind of both teams, but Kangaroos had an extra 30 disposals than St Kilda. But St Kilda dominated the inside 50 count. They dominated most other team stats in this one. However, the team ratings, as you can see on the screen, if you are watching this one, North Melbourne actually rated higher than St Kilda, 42.9 to a 41.74. Both of those ratings are very low in terms of most games. Typically, the winning team is about a 45 to a 50. Losing team, depending how much they lose by, but is usually low 40s. So neither team rated high in this one. Inside 50s, though, were dominated by St Kilda plus 16. Time in forward half was 57.3% in St Kilda's forward line, so they had plenty of the ball forward. They also did really well in the contested football, 129 to 109. Clearances were pretty level for both teams. In all honesty, it was 30 to 31. North Melbourne slightly won that one. Probably maybe expected them to do a little bit better in the clearance game than they did. They dominated uncontested marks. They had a total of 119. St Kilda had just 77, but for all that, it was only 25 shots on goal for St Kilda and 20 for North Melbourne. Similar accuracy for both teams. St Kilda maybe slightly more wasteful than North Melbourne across the game, as most teams are. North Melbourne's usually pretty accurate in front of goal across the last couple of seasons, and this was really no different. Turnover numbers, or turnover scoring, is where St Kilda did their work. So North Melbourne actually had the one extra intercept, but only converted it into 5 goals 5, whereas St Kilda got 7-7, so plus 14 points in the turnover game. It was all forward half, mainly forward half at least, 7-4, 46 to 5-5, 35 from the forward half for St Kilda scoring. And that basically sums up the difference between these two teams. Brownlow votes, I'm going with Wanganeen Malira again. He had a lot of the football, as he has done over the last month or so. He had another 36 touches in this one, 13 contested possessions, 10 ground ball gets, 9 clearances, 0-2 from 3 shots. So he could have had an even better day than he did. 9 score involvements. There's not much more to say about this guy than that right now. He's absolutely flying. He's been one of the best players in the competition over the last month or so. And we'll get to our Brownlow leaderboard shortly, but just a little word of warning. He is flying up the leaderboard. Colby McKercher, I've given the 2 votes to. He also had 36 touches in this game. He was solid. He wasn't great by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think anyone from North Melbourne was super great in this one, but I've given him 2 votes just because he had so much of it. And Rowan Marshall, I've given the 1 vote to. I think he was really, really good in the ruck. 24 touches he ended up with. Also got 4 clearances, kicked a goal. Just a really good ruck game from him. Made use of the fact that North Melbourne lacking a ruckman right at this point in time. Or at least an A-grade ruckman with Tristan Cherry out. MVP votes, Rowan Marshall gets the 10. He rated the highest on the ground in the All Aussie Rules rating system. Jack Sinclair, he was second with 26 touches, 10 contested, 11 intercepts was his main source of the touches. Nashaya gets the 6. We've already gone through his numbers. Callum Wilkie in the back line was outstanding. He gets the 4. He had 8 intercepts as well to go with his 17 touches, was very good. And Hunter Clark sneaks in for 2 votes in this one. He had 25 touches, 7 marks. Just a really good game, 512 metres gained. For North Melbourne, Caleb Daniel gets the 5. He was the highest rated player for the Kangaroos. He had 32 touches in the end, was very good. Harry Sheasel gets the 4. He rated pretty highly in this one with 33 touches, 7 of those contested. 4 clearances, 5 marks, kicked a goal. Luke Davies-Yanaki gets the 3 votes for his game. He had 21 touches and a goal. Colby McKercher, we went through him. He had 36 touches. He gets 2 votes. And George Wardlaw gets the 1 vote for the Kangaroos. 17 touches and a goal in this one. Where does that put both these teams? I mean, neither of them are going to be playing finals. St Kilda probably win their 3rd game in a row next week because they have Richmond Tigers. They're starting to go up the ladder a little bit late season. Perhaps should have done their work a bit earlier in the year, and who knows, maybe they were pushing towards the 8, but they just lost way too many games throughout the early stages of the season. Kangaroos, they have a tough one next week. They head to Manuka Oval. They play GWS in what is an important game for the Giants, not so much for the Kangaroos. The final couple games for St Kilda, they then play Essendon and the Giants. So they could quite possibly win 4 games in a row. Probably don't win the final game. Kangaroos, they finish with Richmond and then Adelaide. So potentially another win in their season yet, but only the one you would imagine. What does that mean for the ladder where they will finish? St Kilda probably finish anywhere from 11th down to 14th, you'd imagine. They won't go any further down than they are. They've still got possible 2 more wins in their season, which would get them up to 11th, most likely, if they were to win both of those. Kangaroos, they're probably going to finish either 16th or 17th, depending on whether they beat the Tigers in 2 weeks or not. That's basically what it's going to come down to for them. We'll move on to the next game, and it was Geelong Port Adelaide, and it was another drubbing. Geelong have done it again, as they tend to do at this time of year. They dominate the bad teams, and this is no exception. Port Adelaide's form has completely dropped off. They've been super uncompetitive over recent weeks, and this was no different. 153 to 65, it's an 88-point win. Most of the damage was done in the second half. It was 59 to 29 at halftime, and then Geelong just went absolutely berserk. They kicked 9 goals to 1 in that 3rd quarter, including a 5-minute period through the middle part of the quarter where Jack Martin kicked 4 goals in about 5 minutes and 16 seconds. It was ridiculous. I think from what I've read, it was the fastest 4-goal from one player in the history of AFL since they've been keeping track of that. So a really impressive effort from Jack Martin in that little period. Geelong just dominated, as you can see from the team ratings. 54-7 is really high and 37-39 is pretty low. Plus 17-ish is not the biggest gap between 2 teams in ratings this year, but it's certainly top 10-ish. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I'll probably be putting them together later on this week. So, Geelong just absolutely dominated this one. We look at the team stats for it, and it reads exactly the same as the scoreboard, really. Plus 80-odd disposals. Really good disposal efficiency from Geelong, especially compared to Port Adelaide, who went under 70%. Over 1,600 metres difference in metres gained for this game. Geelong just absolutely smacked them. Inside 50s was 69 to 33. Forward halftime was 60% for Geelong. Plus 20 contested possessions, plus 13 intercepts, plus 3 clearances. So pretty much across the board, Geelong dominated this one. Contested marks ended up 17 to 2. Port Adelaide only managed 2 contested marks for the game. Intercepts marks was also 18 to 8 in favour of Geelong. Just general marks, 127 to 66. Shots at goal, 40 to 18. It was one-way traffic from the get-go, and they thrashed them. Their transition game was really on in this one, Geelong. They didn't have any issues moving the ball at a pretty successful rate. 33% change to score percentage is ridiculously high. Here, that was good from them. They scored from stoppages. They absolutely dominated from turnovers, which over the last 2 seasons, when they're scoring from the turnover in bulk amounts, they are unstoppable. They scored 94 to 33 from turnover in this one. So they just had full control over the match from beginning to end. Forward half scoring was also really dominant, 74-36, as was defensive half, in all honesty, 60-21. Even centre bounce, 19-8. Geelong just had control of this match from the get-go, and that just didn't change. Brownlow votes for this one, it's all going Geelong, no surprise there. Max Holmes, I think, clearly was best on ground. 35 touches, 12 contested possessions, 8 intercepts, 4 clearances, 2 goals. He had an absolute stellar game, one of the best players of the round this weekend. I'm yet to put the final touches on the full ratings for the round to compare, but I think he's going to be in the top 3 rated players for the weekend. Shannon Neal, he gets the 8, which might surprise a few people, possibly. I think he was really good, in all honesty. He kicked 3 goals, 4 intercepts, 7 marks. He did his job. 8 contested possessions, 15 disposals. Did his job, no doubt about it. We'll do Brownlow votes, though. Let's not jump ahead to MVP. Sorry, got confused. 2 Brownlow votes to Brian Myers. He had 30 touches in this game, kicked a goal. Bailey Smith also had plenty of it, 30 disposals. So he gets 1 vote in the Brownlow. Now it's MVP. Max Holmes, obviously, I said he was best on ground, rated really highly. Shannon Neal kicked his 3 goals. He rated 2nd for Geelong, gets 8 votes. Bailey Smith gets 6 for his 30 touches. Brian Myers gets 4 votes in the MVP for his 30 touches and a goal. And Jack Bowles, he gets the 2 votes. He also had 24 touches and 2 goals in this one. For Port Adelaide, their top 5, they're all a long way down in the ratings comparatively, but Ollie Wines was the highest rated. He had 32 touches. He played a decent game. 8 clearances as well was their best. Willem Drew was their next best with 24 touches. Jordan Sweet in the ruck played a solid enough game. Not as anywhere near to the standards he did a couple of weeks ago when he played the best game of his career, but 16 touches, 2 missed shots was his disappointing part. If he had kicked 2 goals, who knows? His rating might have been slightly better. Travis Boak, he was next. He gets 2 votes, 24 touches and a goal. And Jackson Mead gets the 1 vote for his 18 disposals, 3 intercepts, a couple clearances for him. That's everything from that game. We'll have a look at what that means for both of these teams. 3 weeks to go. First of all, Geelong are the important one in terms of September action. They're sitting 4th on the ladder at the end of this round. With 3 games to go, they should win all 3. They should stay in the top 4. There are a lot of teams trying to sneak into the top 4. I don't think Geelong are going to lose their spot. They have the Bombers next week, followed by Sydney at the SCG, which is their one little maybe game that they could lose. I doubt they will. And then they finish the season with the Tigers at the MCG. So that's 2 easy wins and a little bit of a tricky one. I don't see them losing to Sydney, but strange things happen in football at times. So you'd think that they're going to be top 4, potentially top 2, and hosting a qualifying final. Next, Port Adelaide, their season's over. They're 11th on the ladder. The way they're playing at the moment, there's very little chance that they beat anyone. They have Fremantle next week at the Adelaide Oval. They'll lose that one based on what we've seen over recent times. Then they head to Marvel Stadium and play Carlton. The way Carlton played today, they're probably going to struggle to win that game. And then they finish the season with Gold Coast at Adelaide Oval, which I can't see them winning that one either. So they could drop a couple spots on the ladder late season here. Their best is certainly good enough to win maybe even all 3 of those, but certainly a couple of them. But the way they're playing football over the last 4 or 5 weeks, it's hard to see them getting any wins in their last 3 games with Ken Hinkley as coach. 1 game to go. It was the final game of the round. It was Fremantle Carlton. It was Optus Stadium. And the Bluebackers, they nearly stole this one. They kicked 4 early goals. The first 4 goals of the game, in fact, before Carlton got a couple before quarter time. Fremantle, got a couple before quarter time. They were up by 18 points at quarter time, and it was looking good. they managed to keep that lead very much the same. In fact, got it actually out to 24 points by half time, and it was maybe everyone was thinking Carlton maybe could win this one, based on just the fact that they were playing pretty solid football, and Fremantle were having maybe some thoughts about last year where they lost their last 4 games of the season, and ended up missing finals after being like third on the ladder with 4 weeks to go. So I don't see that happening again, and it definitely shouldn't happen now that they got through the Blues today. They played a really good second half, the Dockers. They kicked 11 goals to 2 goals in the second half, ended up winning by 27 points. Not their most impressive win, but it was certainly a good enough to get the points in this one against the Blues. Team stats for this one look pretty solid for Carlton, in all honesty. They actually had plus 50 disposals, the Blues, in this one. Extra 2 inside 50s, and had the ball in their forward half 54% of game time, which is crazy numbers. Not great numbers for Fremantle. A little bit of a query on this result for them. It's not the end of the world, but they probably would like to be playing slightly better than that in the long run home. Intercepts 75 to 73, so plus 2 in favour of Fremantle. That's too many turnovers, probably, though. 73 for them. They won't be too happy with that. They were plus 7 in clearances. 21 shots to 19, so they only had an extra 2 shots in this game. Just wherever you look on the stat sheet, it makes it look like Carlton certainly were within a chance and probably shouldn't have lost by 4 goals in this one. Scoring from stoppage is where Freo did it, 50 to 27. Turnover game was 44 to 39 in favour of Fremantle, so they just got narrowly there. Defensive half was good scoring from Freo, 30 to 15. Forward half was 63 to 38. So therefore, Carlton did okay out of the centre bounce, 14 to 1. Team ratings, Carlton actually rated higher, so that's about the second or third team this weekend that's lost the game but rated higher than the opposition. Not by much, but a little bit. Brownlow votes. Andrew Brayshaw gets the 3. He was good in this game. He wasn't outstanding, but he was really, really solid. He was probably Fremantle's best midfielder. 23 touches. He had 10 clearances. 14 contested possessions, was really good. Paddy Cripps played his best game of the season, I think. I haven't done the full ratings, as I said, haven't compared them to his season, but I'd say he rated higher than he has this season. He had 36 touches, 9 clearances, was really, really good. 21 contested possessions as well is a massive number. George Hewitt gets the 1 vote. He also had 36 touches, 15 of those contested, 3 intercepts, 7 clearances. So all big ball winners there. MVP votes, Luke Jackson rated the highest for the Dockers and therefore gets the 10 MVP votes. 27 disposals for him, 8 clearances. There's some big games by Ruckman this weekend, and Luke Jackson was just another one of those. Josh Tracy up forward was crucial in getting Fremantle going, I think, in this one, because they did struggle through most of it. He kicked 3 goals for the match, was solid and important for them. There's no doubt about it. He only had 3 shots, 13 touches, but kicked 3 goals. Jordan Clark running off the back flank did what he's been doing all season. Another really good performance from him. He had a lot of the football, 30 disposals in this one. Oscar McDonald rates really well in this. He only had the 12 touches, 8 intercepts though, and a goal. And Sean Darcy as their, I guess, number 1 ruckman, with Luke Jackson technically their number 2 ruckman. Played a good game, 10 touches, does a lot more of the actual ruck work throughout the game. He had 24 hit-outs. It was, those two combining have been very good so far over the last 4 or 5 weeks together. For Carlton, Paddy Cripps gets the 5 votes for being their best, highest rated player, as we said, 36 touches. George Hewitt, he gets 4 votes, also 36 touches. Cooper Lord is their next one. He had 22 touches in this game. He was solid. 3 intercepts. He carried a little bit. 14 contested possessions. Gets his head in under the footy. Played well. Mark Pittenay, even though against the 2 big towers of Fremantle, put up a good fight. 15 touches. He did well the other way as well as defensively at times. Not his... Like, he was always going to struggle to compete against two ruckmen, but I think he did an okay job. And Francis Evans gets the 1 vote. 12 touches, 2 goals for him. That's everything from that game. We'll have a look at what that means for both of these teams. Fremantle, they're trying to get into the top 4. They're currently 5th on the ladder. They're one of these teams that are trying to push in there, and maybe a team above them will slip up and allow them in. They've got Port Adelaide next week, which, even though it's in Adelaide, you'd expect them to win. Then they host the Brisbane Lions at the Gabba. Not at the Gabba, sorry. At Optus Stadium. If they win those two, then it sets up a tantalising game against the Bulldogs in round 24, which could be for a top 4 spot for the Dockers. It is at Marvel Stadium, so it won't be easy, but that will be a crucial game in the context of their season, I think. They should probably win their next 2. Even Brisbane at Optus Stadium, you'd back Fremantle, I think, but if they were to drop that one, it would be interesting, but you'd have to say that they're probably safe enough going to be playing finals, unless they were to drop all 3 games, which I don't see happening. Carlton, their season has been long run and won or done. They host Gold Coast next week at Marvel Stadium. If they play as well as they did in this one, maybe they're a sneaky chance for an upset. I'm not super confident in that, though. They then play Port Adelaide at Marvel Stadium, which is certainly a game that they can win, before they wrap it up with an Essendon game at the MCG to wrap up their season, which I would imagine will be probably a winnable game for them. So certainly could win at least 2 of their last 3 games. With them sitting similar spot to St Kilda, that might be crucial in terms of ladder position and picks for certain teams. Them and St Kilda could end up 12th and 13th on the ladder, maybe even 11 and 12th, in all honesty, because Port Adelaide could absolutely not win another game. It's going to be an interesting run home for them. Don't go anywhere. I know we've gone through all 9 games, but next up we're going to have a look at Brownlow voting leaderboard after round 21, the MVP leaderboard after round 21, and we'll wrap it up with how our footy tips went this weekend. So don't go anywhere. We're going straight into that. Also, while I get that up, don't forget to go and follow all of the social medias, X/Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Blue Sky, you name it, all Aussie Rules everywhere. Go check it out. Plenty of footy content every single day of the week. Also, this podcast goes live twice a week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. So go follow along on your favorite platform for that. And there's plenty of other YouTube videos go live every single week. So make sure you go give that a subscribe, hit that noti bell so you don't miss any videos. Let's jump into the Brownlow leaderboard after round 21. And boy, oh boy, is it heating up now. No votes for Nick Dacos this week, but he holds on to the lead, even though it's equal lead now. Jordan Dawson has equaled him at the top on 26 votes. 2 ahead of a whole range of players on 24. We've got Andrew Brayshaw, who played well this weekend, Max Holmes, who played well this weekend, Matt Rowell, who played good this weekend, and Nashaya Wangani-Malira, who is making an almighty chase towards the Brownlow leaderboard late season. If St Kilda had have won a few more games, maybe, just maybe, he'd be slightly higher, but he's had an outstanding season. Caleb Sarong on 23, he's flying along. Bailey Smith on 21, he was solid this weekend. Noah Anderson has been really good over the last few weeks, and he's also making a late season run. Lockie Neal on 18 votes with Zach Butters. Rounds out the top 10. It's getting spicy up the top. There's still probably everyone from maybe Noah Anderson and above genuinely in with a shot for the Brownlow, based on our numbers at least. With 3 rounds to go, 4 games for Gold Coast. So Noah Anderson and Matt Rowell both get that extra game. It's going to be interesting. It's going to go down to the wire, I think, in our voting system at least. It'll be interesting to see how that varies from the AFL, but I think I tend to try and give my votes on who I think the umpires will give them to. Jumping into the MVP, we've gone through how that system works. It's a bit different than the Brownlow. This is the highest rated players in the All Aussie Rules rating system. And we've got 2 Gold Coast players at 1 and 2, even though they've played one less game than everybody else in the AFL. 1 and 2 right now are Gold Coast players. That shows how crucial these 2 players have been for the Gold Coast Suns this year. It's Matt Rowell in first on 103, Noah Anderson on 102. Brodie Grundy has also equaled up there with 102 with Noah Anderson. So Nick Dacos is in 4th. He was Collingwood's best this week, but they lost. Hugh McCluggage is having an outstanding season. He's 99.5. 98 for Max Gawn. You'd think probably the winner comes from Max Gawn or above, especially seeing Matt Rowell and Noah Anderson have that extra game. So you'd think one of those 2 is in the box seat at the moment. Jordan Dawson on 93. Bailey Smith on 92. How much different would it be if he hadn't missed a few games of football this season? Luke Jackson on 90, Caleb Sarong 89, and Andrew Brayshaw 88. The 3 Dockers all lined up together fighting for their best and fairest. In all honesty, probably likely could be a really tight battle in their best and fairest between those 3. Max Holmes gets 86, Zach Butters 84, Tom Green on 82, and Lachie Neale on 81. Rounds out the top 15 after round 21, 3 rounds to go. That's heating up, but as I said, I think it's going to go Matt Rowell or Noah Anderson in all honesty, because they play that extra game, and those 2 are playing some really, really great football at the moment. This is how our tips went this weekend. It started with the Bulldogs on Thursday night. They actually won by 88 points, so we weren't that close with that tip, let's be honest, but we got it right at least. Adelaide won by 14, so we're very close in that margin. Melbourne won by 83, so we weren't that close in that one. Gold Coast won by 84, we said 60, so pretty close there. Sydney only won by 14, so we weren't that close there. Collingwood we got wrong. Brisbane got them by 27 points. St Kilda got the job done by 9 points. We're pretty close there. Geelong won by 88 points. We went unders there. And Fremantle won by 27 points. We tipped them by 38. So not too bad there. Overall, 8 out of 9. Pretty solid week again here. We're doing okay over the recent weeks. The start to the season cost us a few tips, unfortunately. But that's how tipping goes sometimes. Another weird weekend of football. There was, 4 games won by 80 points. Between 80 and 90 points. This weekend. There's been some floggings over the last couple of weekends. Hopefully we can get some better football this weekend coming up. In all honesty, there's probably going to be a couple floggings next weekend as well. We'll hopefully get a close game on Thursday night, Hawthorn Collingwood. Friday night looks rough between Geelong and Essendon. St Kilda Richmond, that will be an interesting game. Brisbane Sydney, you'd think Brisbane should win, but it'll probably only be 5 goals, I'd say. Carlton Gold Coast, that might be an interesting game. Port Adelaide Freo, I can't see Freo absolutely smoking them, but they should win. GWS should probably beat North Melbourne by 50 plus. Melbourne Bulldogs, it is at the MCG, but I think the Bulldogs should win that one by probably 40 plus. And then we round out the weekend at Optus Stadium with West Coast Adelaide. Adelaide should absolutely smoke them from what we've seen over recent weeks. That is a wrap on episode 54 of the podcast. Don't forget that episode 55 will be previewing all of 9 of those games. That will be live on the YouTube, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts on Thursday morning, as they all our preview episodes go live on Thursday mornings. So make sure you come back, check that out. Hopefully we can find you 9 of 9 winners. It's going to be an interesting run home. Don't forget to go check out all the socials. Make sure you hit that YouTube up. Check out the videos that go live every week on that channel. We're going to have AFLW content coming your way very soon. That season starts in 11 days, I think. So go check all the content out everywhere. It's all Aussie Rules. I'm Jay. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I'll catch us on the next one.